These motherfuckers are so in tune with nature that they'll make a bird sound and the bird will show you where the honey is. And then there's a pack of 50 dogs following us, and the dogs aren't pets, they're hunting tools. So the dogs are the first line of defense. They sniff it out, and I'm on a fucking insane experience right now. If I walk with one of the kids, it's like him giving me a tour of his house. He's like grabbing a snake and biting his head off. He's like, you want some? He takes out his slingshot, a pebble this big, bam, hits a fucking bush baby out of the tree, breaks his leg, puts it here, he's like, snack for later. And I'm on a fucking insane experience right now. There was like a Catholic priest that set up a mission in that area. I met him. He's been trying to convert the Hadza to Catholicism for 20 years. And he's like, they use the Bible pages to smoke weed.
On Minnesota, there were a lot of horrific details that came out today about the suspect who's been charged there. Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. Look, I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
Joe Rogan and President Trump could spend hours dismantling the carefully crafted image of a leader wrapped in Midwest politeness, turning slow answers and vague promises into comedic target practice. Every glittering pledge somehow fades into delays, detours, and endless committees that study problems instead of solving them. The charm feels scripted, the photo ops are staged, and the buzzwords flow nonstop. Perfect material for Rogan's biting humor and Trump's sharp jabs, exposing politics dressed as progress but stuck in permanent politics.
Tim Walz is out there talking again.
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
Did you say you could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he kicked their ass. And
I think I could kick most of their ass. I do think that.
They're scared of him because he could fix a truck.
I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on it.
They're threatened by his masculinity. I know how to fix a truck.
No, I'm serious because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshitting.
Do you? I bet you don't.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock? You don't think it's racism and misogyny?
I bet if I bring a broken truck to you and a bag of tools, you're fucked.
Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Tim Walz moves through politics like a man who thinks every meeting is a chili cook-off judging contest. The self-satisfied grin, the exaggerated folksiness, the whole, I'm just a regular guy who accidentally ended up running a state routine. It's all so meticulously crafted that you half expect him to end every press conference by pulling a pie out of the oven. This is a man who looks like he buys overalls just for photo ops and then hands them off to Goodwill the second the cameras stop rolling.
He's a complete pathological liar.
Let's be honest, there are outsiders coming into communities, stealing and moving jobs away, and making life harder for people living there. And they have names, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square, lied about being a head coach of a football team.
Because this started, and I love this story, as a young prosecutor. Kamala Harris talked about going in that courtroom for the first time.
Pathological liars, people that are habitual liars, they just lie all the time about everything.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't deploy for war. You didn't. Why are you saying you deployed at war? The weapons you used in war? No, you were in war.
I plan on waking up on November 6th with Madam President.
I want to be clear, you won't be waking up together.
No, you weren't a head coach, you were the water boy. The f*** are you talking about?
I thought some of that was weird. Joe Rogan would look at Walz's track record and think of the bizarre mix between a survivalist who read one too many government pamphlets and a high school principal who insists on being called coach, even though he's never actually coached a game. Walz has this habit of speaking with the confidence of someone unveiling a groundbreaking idea, while in reality, describing something you could have figured out by reading the instructions on a toaster.
You haven't seen that? No. The video of him taking down the Minnesota flag and he replaced it with the new flag that looks a lot like the Somali flag. Minnesota has a huge population of Somalis in it.
Oh, wait a minute.
So he gets the flag, picks it up, moves it out of the way, and replaces it. Look at this.
There, that's better.
Why is that better?
President Trump sees Walz as a perfect example of a politician who mistakes slow-talking sincerity for confidence. Every time Walz gives a speech, he leans into that syrupy Midwest charm, hoping people won't notice the policies behind it are about as sturdy as a dollar store lawn chair. His big political moves feel like they're written on the back of a diner napkin by someone who's 3 cups deep into weak coffee and convinced they just solved the economy.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans.
I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. but they made a bad choice with
Rogan
him.
didn't even have to dig deep to roast Walz, just pointing out that his economic vision seems to involve throwing taxpayer money at whatever buzzword-filled initiative crosses his desk would do the trick. Walz will slap the words community and equity on any spending package like a politician's version of duct tape, hoping no one notices the budget bleeding money faster than a leaky roof wrapped in...
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
This is what people love about Donald Trump. The fact that he would say this.
But unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was. I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have, period, but then I met Tim Walz.
Trump's jabs would be even sharper, cutting right into Walz's image as a man of the people. This is a guy who never misses a chance to remind folks he was in the National Guard, as if that alone makes him an infallible leader. The way Walz talks about his service, you'd think he single-handedly won a war with nothing but grit and a thermos of coffee. In reality, he left before his unit deployed to Iraq, and that little fact doesn't quite fit the hero story he likes to roll out during campaign season. Walz's political instincts are so painfully predictable that Rogan could script his next press conference blindfolded. Step 1. Talk slow enough that people feel like they're listening to a bedtime story. Trump would hammer him for his economic approach, which is basically Minnesota's version of a yard sale. Everything's priced weirdly, nothing's where it should be, and by the end, you're wondering why you showed up in the first place. Walz manages to make bold promises about growth and innovation, while somehow strangling small businesses with regulations dense enough to be used as doorstops.
I saw the picture. And honestly, it was a very nice looking family. But his brother endorsed me and the whole family endorsed me. I said, who are all the people? There's something weird with that guy. He's a weird guy. JD is not weird. He's a solid rock. I happen to be a very solid rock. We're not weird.
Rogan would roast his handling of crime, which has the same energy as someone trying to stop a house fire with a spray bottle. Walz reacts to rising crime stats with speeches about togetherness and understanding, as if a well-worded paragraph is going to stop someone from breaking into your car. He treats public safety like a social experiment, and the results are about as comforting as on open mic comedy night in a biker bar. Trump would mock how Walz tries to act like a bipartisan bridger, but ends up pleasing no one. This is a man who turned emergency response into an extended season of political theater. Long meandering speeches about resilience, contradictory rules that made about as much sense as wearing a raincoat in the shower, and a knack for declaring victory over problems that were still very much happening. If there were an award for most overcomplicated simple decision, Walz would have ass shelf full of trophies.
That's a big one, man.
Stolen valor and all that.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August. Can you explain that discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without
Trump had
him.
a field day mocking Walz's PR stunts, the staged community visits, the carefully photographed appearances at local events. It's all political cosplay. He plays the role of down-home problem solver. While governing like someone trying to win a popularity contest in a town, he only visits during election season. The guy could make showing up to a farmer's market look like a campaign commercial. Rogan would go in on the way Walz manages to sound like he's solving problems while actually just describing them in a soothing tone. It's the political equivalent of telling someone their house is on fire, but reassuring them it's a warm glow. He's mastered the art of comforting language that leads nowhere, talking about progress like it's always just around the corner, yet somehow never arriving. Rogan would compare them to a DIY project from a YouTube tutorial that looked good in theory, but ended with someone duct taping the whole thing together. Roads still crumbling, transit projects dragging on like bad reality TV seasons, and budgets ballooning until no one remembers what the original goal was.
I saw the picture. And honestly, it was a very nice looking family. But his brother endorsed me and the whole family endorsed me. I said, who are all the people? There's something weird with that guy. He's a weird guy. JD is not weird. He's a solid rock. I happen to be a very solid rock. We're not weird. We're other things perhaps, but we're not weird. But he is a weird guy. He walks on the stage. There's something wrong with that guy. And he called me weird. And then the fake news media picks it up. That was the word of the day. Weird, weird, weird. They're all going, But we're not weird guys. We're very solid people that want our country to be great again. I mean, it's very simple.
Trump would mock his obsession with buzzwords and policy announcements. Walz can't introduce a bill without stuffing full of terms like transformative, inclusive, and comprehensive, as if stringing enough adjectives together will make up for the lack of tangible results. It's political seasoning without the meat. Lots of flavor words, nothing to chew on. Rogan would tear into Walz's habit of blaming opponents for every roadblock, even when his own party isn't fully on board. It's like watching a coach blame the referees for a loss when half the team didn't show up to play. Instead of negotiating or adapting, Walz just leans on the victim narrative until the whole situation sounds like a Facebook post from your most dramatic aunt. Trump would land blows on Walz's fixation with his regular guy persona. The more he insists he's just like the people he serves, the more it feels like a costume he can take off. The crisp suits, the stage smiles, the practice pauses and speeches. It's all crafted to hide that he's as much a career politician as anyone else, just dressed in Minnesota nice.
He lost an election. He played a part. You know, usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the
Walz's
bottom.
approach to education would be another gold mine for ridicule. Rogan would point out that his grand reforms sound impressive until you look at the actual outcomes, which often fall flat. It's like announcing a revolutionary new workout program that turns out to be walking in place for 20 minutes. Lots of talk about equity and opportunity, but the execution is sluggish and full of bureaucratic red tape. Trump would mock how Walz handles criticism as if every negative headline is an opportunity to double down on the same ideas that got him there, zero action, and a press release about how the process is ongoing. He's turned governing into an endless group project where nothing gets turned in on time. Trump would zero in on Walz's energy policy, which tries to please environmentalists and industry leaders at the same time and ends up frustrating both. It's like promising a vegan meal that somehow also contains bacon. Nobody leaves happy.
He was 100% right with Tim Walz.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
I mean, that guy was almost the vice president of the United States. I'm sure you've seen that thing where it shows Obama saying, I need a vice president that's dumber than me.
Yeah.
And then it's Biden and
I think I
Biden
was
saying,
that
I need a vice
thing.
president dumber than me.
Great.
And it's Kamala saying, I need a vice president
and
dumber
then
than me.
it's Biden and Biden saying, I need a vice president dumber than me. And it's Kamala saying, I need a vice president dumber than me. Rogan wouldn't miss a chance to point out how Walz dodges accountability by wrapping himself in Midwestern politeness. He'll nod, smile, and say all the right things while quietly sidestepping any real ownership of mistakes. It's political Aikido, redirecting criticism without ever actually absorbing it. Trump would highlight how Walz markets his leadership as steady and pragmatic, when in reality it's reactive and safe. He's not a bold decision maker. He's a political weather vane, shifting just enough to catch whatever wind is currently blow without committing to a real course. Walz's national ambitions, whether he admits them or not, would be shredded. Rogan would point out that his attempts to step into the national spotlight always feel like a small-town mayor trying to headline Madison Square Garden. Technically possible, but painfully out of place. Trump would end by mocking Walz's overconfidence in his public image, as if a high approval rating in Minnesota translates to political dominance on a national scale. It's a small pond mentality from a man who thinks he's ready for the ocean. And just when you think the roast has exhausted every angle, there's always more. The misplaced priorities, the overpromising and underdelivering, the reliance on optics over outcomes. It's a never-ending buffet of political mediocrity, dressed up as competence.
And this other guy who's radical from Minnesota, that's the vice president, who he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13. Another one is abortion up until 9 months.
Walz's transportation agenda is another prime example of style over substance. He rolls out shiny proposals with slick renderings and big promises. But once the cameras are gone, it's nothing but detours and budget overruns. The man treats deadlines like polite suggestions, turning every project into a waiting game that tests the patience of even the most laid-back Minnesotan. His rural outreach is equally laughable. He shows up in small towns like a traveling salesman, peddling government solutions no one asked for. Walz will gladly hold a press conference to tell you he's listening, but ask for specifics, and you get a tangle of half-answers wrapped in feel-good phrases. It's the political version of reading the back of a cereal box. Lots of words, zero useful information. He's mastered the art of looking accountable, while